Hello, today Sarah and I are going to discuss the sourcing opportunities that you have across the world. Now, these are vast and there are different reasons for sourcing in different countries, which will depend on maybe the category you're sourcing for, the size of business that you're sourcing for. It is always worthwhile getting some insight as to which countries are the key countries to source in, and those can change all the time with the geopolitical situation changing and how the world is moving on. So today we thought we'd just give you a quick insight into what we know about sourcing and what we've learned to give you a starter as to how you can source for your business. We're going to start with China as our first country, and this is a country that clearly lots of people will source from. China is known as the factory of the world and is well known for a sourcing destination for all textiles, homeware products that you would need for your business. The key reason that you would source in China is if you want to buy volume, because they can produce volume at absolutely brilliant prices. They can also produce margins for you that are really, really significant. So the reason that retailers will go to China is that they can get great product at great prices that they can then put into their business. There are also key issues that you need to be aware of if you're sourcing in China, and clearly where it is means that it is a wide place to visit. It's very expensive. You need to manage an itinerary if you're going to visit there because there are so many choices. So if you're going to source in China, the consideration you need to have is, why am I going there? What factories do I need to source, and how do I manage an itinerary to make sure that I go to the right places in China, because the choices are so vast. So our suggestions would be that you get some help and some information. You plan it very carefully before you go. For this reason, a number of traders will use supply offices or have their own sourcing offices or use agents to help them navigate the vastness that is China. Key things that you need to be aware of is quality control, making sure that you're very clear about the quality control in China and what you require of it. And for this reason, making sure that you have a very strong product brief, and that if you then get the samples, that the samples are all checked. And we would suggest having a red seal sample for your first source, and then a second, what we would normally call a gold seal, where you're very happy with the quality of it. So you're very sure that the quality you discussed in the factory at the time is the quality that you're going to receive for your business. Effective communication is really, really critical, and making sure that if there are any language barriers, that you have a source or an agent who can help you with language, just so that you are very clear from all sides on what you have agreed before you go home. In terms of the product mix from China, it tends to be brilliant at core product, very clean, whereas you would probably go to India, which we'll talk about later, which is more artisanal. In China, you would expect lots of very clean core product that they can produce in volume, and they have a really strong finishing on both homewares and fashion. Communication is really critical. Make sure the QC is in place then, and have critical planning, because for China, we have found they close for Chinese New Year. So making sure that your critical path allows for the fact that it's going to take you longer to get your goods from China anyway, but you have made sure that everything is in place in terms of your critical path before the big shutdown for Chinese New Year. So that's going to impact in early part of January, February, to make sure that you have factored that into your critical path. It's a great place to source, but it is vast. And what Sarah is going to talk about now is really just a number of the places that we know that we have sourced in China that are phenomenal for certain products. It is vast, but we'll just do an edited version of our knowledge for you.
And as Anna said, kind of China as a country is almost like to us a place made up of several countries. So when we talk region, we're still talking about quite vast areas. So moving around whilst you're sourcing in China can often involve internal flights or long car or train journeys, because it really is quite a vast country to get your head around in terms of where you might need to go to find your factories and producers. But there are historically kind of some areas that really were where the world's factory started. So the Guangdong province, and a region in particular known as the Pearl River Delta, is historically one of the big areas of production and is a major hub for manufacturing various consumer goods, including homewares and gifts. And you've got major cities then like Guangzhou, Shenzhen and Dongguan, where there are significant manufacturing centres. You'll find lots of the showrooms, the big hotels set up for visitors coming on business. So really key areas to have on your radar. So Guangzhou, for instance, tableware and ceramics is what you'll find in particular there. And as Anna mentioned, the tableware and ceramics you'll find out of China generally tends to be more clean finishes. You'll get less of the artisanal looks, less reactive glazes, that kind of thing. there is elements of that, but realistically, you're looking more at your clean finishes on bone or fine chinas, and you'll be able to kind of get mass production of a consistent quality on those. And then in the Fujian province, in cities like Xiamen and Guangzhou, you've again got production of ceramics and porcelain with other homeware items there as well. And again, you'll kind of get elements of decorative accessories coming through in those regions. Xinjiang province, again, homewares and gifts is important there. You're starting to move into more areas of decorative accessories, and one area that, whilst not exclusive to China, but you tend to only find in a big way in that country, is around the seasonal areas. So the likes of Christmas decorations and artificial flowers are really kind of product lines that, if you want to go into a big way, you really need to consider looking at the regions in China. And those industries are so much embedded into China as a region, you'll quite often find showrooms still in Hong Kong. So actually, whilst Hong Kong has become such a city of e-commerce now, as opposed to kind of trading, a lot of the older industries that still exist in China still have showrooms in the city. And then lastly is the Jiangsu province for your textiles and bedding. And again, kind of just being clear with those factories out there, because textiles, especially, and bedding in particular, is where you get variations on sizing. So making sure they're clear on what country you're sourcing for and what you're looking at in that area is particularly important. And then if you're looking more with a fashion lens, you are still considering the same major areas, the same major cities, so Guangzhou, Shenzhen, but you're also kind of getting more towards Shanghai. And in terms of those areas, they've kind of got more of a focus towards footwear, outerwear and sports. So kind of tends to be where a lot of, for instance, major trainer brands will be producing in those regions. And a lot of those factories will be exclusive to brands and manage really high security levels because of that. So again, you'll get to understand which factories you can access and work to. And then in Jiwu, you've got fashion accessories, so things, anything from jewellery, scarves and handbags. It's worth bearing in mind that generally in China, the access to the metals is good, but actually in terms of stones and gemstones, there are probably other countries that quite often have better access to those at better prices. But again, you'll be comparing and contrasting factories. And then finally, Dongjuan, in terms of more of your leather goods and your soft wovens, is particularly good. And this is always illustrated through the fact that as a visitor to those areas, there's lots of actual retail shops also kind of selling those types of products.